topic du jour first?
Yeah, let's do topic du
Let's
jour.
do topic du jour. It's the topic du jour. That sounds good. I'll have that.
Today's topic du jour is intellectual property rights.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just going to talk about it. I don't know my opinion on them.
Okay.
I kind of feel like I'm against them, but also I could see why I would be for them.
I think it's
yeah. Currently, it's because maybe I have no dog in the race, as it were.
Understandable.
Maybe no one's stealing my stuff. Maybe they are, actually. I don't know. Because when you post stuff up online, technically it's to the world already.
Public domain. The AI is definitely dragging it for data.
Yeah, what do you think, man?
Well, I think it's one of those things that much like, kind of like your stance on AI for a while is, well, I guess, so that comes back to my stance, sorry, is, thank you, is that I think a large artist or a large company needs to be more open to it and less litigious about it. Whereas people that are just starting out or people that like it's basically their main source of income as the creative properties they're coming up with, I can understand why you're much more against it. So for example, if you're an independent creator and you come up with, well, heck, we'll say come up with a pig.
Sure.
For example, or Critter.
Yeah.
And suddenly somebody else is slapping Critter on T-shirts and they're slapping Critter on hats and like they're making the money off of it and you're not. And they're like, yeah, I saw it. I thought it was really cool. And I just started making these things out. I never really asked if I could or not. That sort of thing. I think that there's a reason to be upset about that. At the same time, though, if you are, say, Walt Disney or Marvel or DC or something of that nature, like, you've already made enough money off of that I think.
There's the rub.
There's the rub.
You've made enough money.
But
when does that number happen?
With that number, there is a number. But at the same time, then you see that so often, especially with not with Disney as much, but especially with the creation of like cartoon characters or comic book characters. Where they eventually get bought out, and there's all these stories of people that invented characters in the 70s, 60s. Joel Shuster and Jerry Siegel, who came up with Superman, got bought out for like $250 or whatever. Because at the time, especially then, you were just creating a new character every week because that's the nature of the comics at the time. And then this became.
And who would have foresaw that Superman would have been?
Exactly, became like the greatest, most popular, most recognizable superhero of all time. And they're like, yeah, we already gave you the $250. What do you want for it? They're like, well, they died it broke, and you're making $100,000 a week off of this. So maybe you could throw us a little bit back.
That is a question. I don't understand how that works too. When the intellectual property rights are owned by an estate, or versus like I can kind of see it like. I thought this myself. Like the things that I have created, that I have the rights to those things.
Yeah.
And then I should be able to, I can pass on to my daughter my stuff.
Yeah.
And she could do whatever she wants with it. Maybe she has to start over. Maybe. She has to re-trademark everything under her name. So I leave her like the physical. Well, I mean, I would go for everybody the same rules. The same rules apply. Like I'm not big on the nepotism. Nepotism shouldn't be a total free ride.
Yeah.
You should, if your parents do well, you should be able to benefit from their experience. Somehow,
certainly.
If nothing else, by life lessons. But if they are creating things that you could use as well, I don't know.
That you could. I think that becomes one of the things as well. I think you would be definitely like, okay, we'll say again, Critter. You create Critter, and then Critter gets spun off into a web series, and this, that, and the next thing. And so the next thing you know, before you pass away, you've got a $10 million empire built around Critter. Now, if your kid wants to continue to help produce new Critter content, help evolve Critter, that sort of thing, I think that's also different from being actively engaged with the creation and maintenance of Critter, rather than just sitting back and being like, yeah, Critter makes $100 million a year. That's my money. Don't you dare touch it, because my dad came up with that.
Don't you know who I am?
Don't you know
who my father is?
Well, and then it becomes the thing of, don't you know who my grandfather was? And it's like, well, okay. I think it's also one of those weird things with intellectual property, because this is actually just coming up recently. So Mickey Mouse, in theory, is coming due soon, but actually Walt Disney Company had a bunch of copyright laws rewritten so that they could keep the copyright longer, which is shady. But then, like Winnie the Pooh, for example, Winnie the Pooh, the book character who does not wear a shirt, is now part of public domain. Winnie the Pooh, the Disney character who wears a shirt, is not part of the public domain. Zorro, the original Zorro, is like public domain, but like Zorro that you know from TV is not part of public domain. Dracula is part of public domain. Sherlock Holmes, I believe, is part of public
Recently?
domain, but certain things about him are not.
Wasn't James Bond as well? Is
James,
that, the books?
I don't. That's a great question. See, that's one I don't know about. But it's always those weird things where like certain like this, you can do this with this character,
Yeah.
but you can't touch on this part because this is still under copyright. And so it's always that sort of weird thing too. And it always seems like the only reason that is done, like 50, 60 years after the point as well, is like because some company doesn't want to give up their money. It's not that that person cares anymore. More often than not, that person is long dead. And then the reverse, like when the creator of like Guardians of the Galaxy was like, hey, cool, I'm dying of cancer. Can I maybe get a couple bucks from these multi-million-dollar movies? They're like, here's the thing. You sold those guys to us for like $7,500 in the 70s. So no. And then they have to be like shamed into doing it. So I think that's the hardest part. I think it's
Corporations, is that the problem?
I think corporations, I think like so many things, corporations is the problem. I think that it is important that the creative work that you create is protected in a way so that you're able to kind of safeguard it. But I also certainly understand the idea of parody and also the idea of fan art, fan fiction, all of those things.
Or collaborative creating, really. I mean, also,
yeah. Well, I think there's collaborative creating. I've done collaborative creation. I did it with the one book I wrote. Was a novella, and it was actually written technically collaboratively with a gentleman who said, these are my characters. He goes, it used to be for a long time, if you wanted to write a book with me, you had to send me the treatment. I'd have my wife read it. We'd go through it, that sort of thing. We'd split the money this way. He goes, tell you what I'm going to do for the next year or two. There's this new Amazon Worlds thing. My characters are out there. If you want to do it, that's fine. I get half the money. So if it does well, that's a thing to be aware of. If it doesn't do well, that's basically just on you, and I still get half the money. He goes, so go ahead and do it. And all these people jumped at the chance.
A lot of people?
Yeah, I want to say at least like 20 or 30. I think at least 20 new books came out from other people writing the stuff. Because I bought a couple of them off of a sub character that I wrote about, and I still found a couple books about them. Because it was a detective series and that sort of thing. And those are always kind of popular, and people want to write their own detective stories with these characters because they find them interesting. So I think, in a way, people wanting to use your art is good because it means that they liked it, something resonates with them, they think it'll resonate with other people. But I can still understand that it kind of comes down to the creator. Maybe that's more it. If the creator is okay with it being shared, I think creators should have more freedom to say, yes, I'd like to share this. Yeah. And again, I think, a lot of the issue comes into the punitive thing of companies coming after you than anything else.
The thing that always kind of bugs me in here, I mean, is that the reason why you can't use or share things is, when it comes down to it, mostly a money thing, not necessarily diluting the brand thing.
Yeah.
Well, even diluting the brand is because it'll cause, trouble to their bottom line or whatever. And art by nature should evolve, and, like pieces should be, you create with each other, and it should evolve and change and become something new.
Yeah.
And it feels like that stunts the growth of it, stops it.
Yeah. And
you can't have Winnie the Pooh wearing, a different.
You can't even. Yeah, I don't think you can. Don't think you can have him wearing like a yellow shirt, and then they'll come down and be like, "Nope, that's still a shirt." And I think that's the thing sometimes too, where they're like, "No, you can't because he's wearing a yellow shirt," and you're like, "But it's a different shirt. Why can't I tell adventures about Winnie the Pooh?" And they're like, "No, you can't because."
Yeah, no, you can't.
Yeah,
you can't. You can tell Winnie the Pooh stories all you want.
You just got to worry about them getting yanked.
As long as he's not wearing a shirt.
There you go. Winnie the Pooh, who was not wearing a shirt, went out into the 1,000-acre woods one day. 100-acre woods? 100-acre woods. This was the 1,000-acre woods. And
woods.
Winnie the Pooh was shirtless. I cannot clarify that enough. Like the opening of A Christmas Carol, Winnie the Pooh had no shirt. It is important that you know this, or the following story will not mean anything to you.
I'm just picturing like a buff Winnie the Pooh strutting on the beach. Winnie the Pooh, Winnie the Pooh, yeah.
Doing the peck thing.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Well, I don't know if I've changed my mind at all on intellectual property. You got any thoughts on that, Jerry?
I think it's hard to reconcile because, like, art naturally, when it develops and changes, like when you look at what certain symbols meant, or the power certain symbols held, especially when we're talking about like a character or something, or even like a style of doing something. We see it all the time in cinema. We're like, we're tropes. We get our tropes from, right? This means that. This means that. Oh, well, there's the I don't know, an owl, so we assume it's that because we always see owls before that. It's odd because that seems at odds with that ability to change stuff because if you have that copyright, part of that idea is you're talking about that consistency, that character.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You're not trying to besmirch that work in that way where it's like, okay, well, someone's Mickey Mouse stands for happiness and good friendship and good times, and so nothing can. They don't want anything to interfere with what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This actually brings up a point. Now, do you guys remember when Looney Tunes had the reboot sometime in the 2000s where they're like futuristic, like they're almost like anime Looney Tunes?
Oh, I think I do. Yeah.
And they had like buzzsaws and like other superpowers.
Oh, yeah.
It struck me that that was a corporation
Mm-hmm.
going, how can we make more money? Oh, follow the trend of this animation style.
Yeah.
To make more, versus independent artists going, how can I
Appreciate this property. I appreciate this style.
yeah, how can I evolve this property in a way versus just chasing after what they think will hit the hot button money things.
Exactly.
And that Looney Tunes show sucked because
Oh, yeah.
they tried to pander too much. And
Yep.
Yeah.
They were chasing a trend. No, exactly. I agree 100%.
So you got that on the one end, and then on the other opposite end would be like the old Calvin and Hobbes situation.
Oh, yeah.
Where the Calvin and Hobbes fella, Sam Watterson.
Bill Watterson. Yep.
It was like, I don't want to do the Garfield route. I don't
No.
want to merchandise it, whatever. But then other people were like, well, we will.
We will, exactly.
And
100%
then it took
will.
him to go and made him peeing on a Ford logo
Yep.
or whatever. And
Calvin will pee on whatever you want him to pee on for a bit because of that. And actually, that's.
Looniacs Unleashed.
But at the same time, when you think about it, so the whole Garfield situation was, again, Jim Davis, though, very deliberately saying, hey, this is my thing. You can use it in all this stuff if you want.
Yeah.
That's fine, but it's going to come back to me. And him still having control over his things. Oh, my goodness.
Are you not familiar with this?
I was not. This was not even the one I was thinking of. I was thinking
yeah.
of a whole different one, and that is, wow. I'm glad I don't remember
Are
this
the
one.
folks at home seeing this?
No.
Oh, you gotta share with them because they can't
Give them a
see it.
share,
Don't do
unless
the
that,
fan art.
unless
Give them
that,
actual like clips of the
Unless
thing.
that
Yeah.
sets off intellectual property right.
That's fine. Hey, that'd be very relevant then to our conversation.
That's
if
true. We
suddenly,
are talking about the thing. You can
Yeah.
show the thing we're talking
Actually,
about.
what's funny is okay. So that kind of brings up in a way. So a group that I like to watch, they're called OSW Review. Well, OSW Review. It's old school wrestling review. It's three guys out of Ireland. They do wrestling reviews. They do this podcast, and they have a video podcast as well. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on their own page. But every single time they do a review, because they're reviewing like WWE pay-per-views, they're reviewing WCW shows, and this sort of thing. And so they're using clips and they're using music from different sources and stuff, and like from video games and things. And they will always then get hit with like, 50 different things from YouTube of people claiming copyright and stuff, including they actually just had a run recently, maybe like a year or so ago, where they were having videos pulled because people were claiming the music in it was theirs when they had already when OSW people had already gotten it cleared as their own music. Like it was already on record that it was their music.
Anyone can make a
Anyone
claim.
could make a claim on it, and they pull the video and wait for YouTube to do it, and so then they lose the money that was on it, and they lose the ads that were on it, and all that stuff. So it's a real pain in the neck. And they just had one. They've started a new run where they do these little arcs, and they put up their first episode, and it was pulled like immediately because of some 2-second joke that they used, but they used, I guess we'll say, the wrong clip from WWE, and so someone from that organization or someone somewhere immediately made a comment on it. It wasn't even germane to the conversation they were having. It was a little side joke they'd made that they then photoshopped, but because they used this certain piece of WWE footage, they had to have it pulled for a while. And it's like, it doesn't negatively impact WWE having this footage used because they weren't even really talking about WWE. It only negatively impacts the creators of this content.
Yeah.
And it doesn't put the other group in a good light because it's like, yeah, they very specifically pulled it down because they don't want their stuff out there and being shared. So yeah, it's. I think that's one of the things as well. I think
the counter argument is always from the people getting hit by a intellectual property thing is that, well, I mean, I'm promoting your thing. I'm trying to spread. I'm giving you exposure. That thing that people want to give younger artists for instead of money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'll pay an exposure. Okay, well, I'll give you exposure. Nope. Give me money instead. What do you mean? Like Lunatics, Lunamaniacs Unleashed.
Yeah.
Lunatics Unleashed, the free exposure we just gave them.
Did you show that on there?
No.
Show them, Jera, show them
Jera wants to show.
Lunatics
Okay.
Unleashed.
All right. Luniacs? Lunatics.
Lunatics? Lunamaniacs. Lunatics Unleashed. It ran for two.
Two seasons. I don't think I ever actually saw it.
Yeah,
I think I saw clips of it. I don't know that I ever actually saw it.
that one also works, and that is.
But they were
You
like,
already know how 2000 is just by the way they wrote Lunatics, like the logo of it right there goes. Yep, that's.
Yeah. And so this is them trying to cash in on like Last Airbender or other
Yep.
anime at the time.
My goodness, yeah, this is just the most edgelord stuff possible.
Yep.
Ace Bunny, Lexi Bunny. I don't know. I mean, she's already Lexi. Techie Coyote.
Wow.
Slam Taz the Man. Slam.
And Rev Runner. Wow. Well, wow.
What it seemed to do was distill the characters down and then scrape out all the joyful parts of the characters.
Yeah.
And just
2005, 2 seasons.
That's the worst part of it. Is when they take something, they scrape all the joy out
They
of it.
took they took the violent aspect of all these characters instead of sarcasm and
The
humor.
fun,
and
witty part?
Fun, witty part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh well. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Yeah, but
Shall we
that's
move on?
intellectual property.
That's intellectual property.
Yeah, that's great. Intellectual property. That was the topic du jour.